Good evening. In our previous sessions, we have examined the architecture of self-esteem, how it rises and falls, how it shields us from anxiety, and how it can be threatened by the comparisons we make with others. You already understand that upward social comparisons can sting, and that we often protect our self-worth by choosing our reference groups carefully. Tonight, we are going to deepen that understanding considerably. We will not simply revisit those ideas. Rather, we will explore a more nuanced model that explains exactly what happens when the person outperforming you is not a distant stranger, but someone close, a sibling, a friend, a colleague. And we will see that the same success that threatens you can, under different conditions, become a source of genuine pride. The self-evaluation maintenance model, developed by Abraham Tesser in 1988, gives us a precise map of these dynamics. It is a reinforcement and a refinement of everything we have discussed about self-esteem and social comparison, but it ventures into territory we have not yet explored, the complex, often painful psychology of being outshone by those we love. Part 1. The Anatomy of the Threat. The SEM model proposes that our self-esteem is threatened when three conditions converge. First, someone else performs better than we do. Second, that performance occurs in a domain that is highly relevant to our own self-concept, a domain we have staked our identity on. And third, the other person is psychologically close to us. The closer the person and the more central the domain, the greater the threat. Let me bring this to life. Leo had always been the musical one in his family. From the age of 12, he poured his identity into playing the guitar, spending hours practicing, writing songs, and dreaming of a career in music. His younger brother Sam also picked up the instrument, but Leo always viewed him as a beginner. Music was Leo's defining domain. His sense of being special rested on it. Then Sam, now 17, entered a regional competition and won first prize with a technically dazzling performance. Friends and relatives showered him with praise, calling him the real talent in the family. Leo felt a sharp, almost physical pain. Sam was not a distant rival. He was Leo's closest sibling, someone he loved. And the domain, guitar playing, was the very core of Leo's self-concept. The combination of extreme closeness and extreme relevance made Sam's success unbearable. Leo found himself withdrawing from family gatherings, making sarcastic remarks about the competition, and secretly hoping Sam would fail at his next recital. He hated himself for these feelings, but the threat to his self-esteem was overwhelming. The SEM model predicts exactly this. The greatest threat arises when a close other excels in a domain that is central to your own identity. It is not mere envy of a stranger's talent. It is the destabilizing recognition that the person who shares your history and your genes has surpassed you on the very dimension you believe defined your worth. Part 2. 4 Strategies of Self-Protection. When this threat arises, we do not simply suffer passively. The SEM model identifies 4 distinct strategies people use to restore their self-esteem. They can be deployed consciously or unconsciously, and we often use more than one at the same time. The first strategy is to exaggerate the other person's ability, effectively removing them from the pool of reasonable comparisons. By convincing yourself that the outperformer is a freakish genius or a once-in-a-generation talent, you can preserve your own sense of competence. You are still good, they are simply an anomaly. Amir is a junior software developer who takes pride in his coding skills. When a new hire, a 22-year-old named Kai, joins the team and immediately writes an elegant algorithm that had stumped everyone else, Amir feels his self-esteem wobble. To protect himself, he begins to reframe Kai's ability. That guy is not normal. He's one of those freakish prodigies who's been coding since he was in nappies. He probably dreams in Python. There's no point comparing myself to someone like that. By elevating Kai into the realm of the extraordinary, Amir can maintain his own sense of being a good developer. Kai is no longer a relevant benchmark. He is a statistical outlier. The second strategy is to engage in downward comparison. When someone above you threatens your self-view, you can restore balance by looking downward, reminding yourself of those who are even worse off. This does not change the objective gap, but it reframes your position as respectable rather than deficient. Nadia finishes a 10-kilometer race in the middle of the pack, well behind the frontrunners but ahead of many others. At first, she feels disappointed not to have placed higher. Then she looks back at the people still crossing the finish line, some walking, some visibly struggling. She reminds herself, "At least I ran the whole thing and finished strong." Some people couldn't even jog for 5 minutes without stopping. I'm in much better shape than the average person. The downward comparison transforms her mid-pack result into a satisfying achievement. Her self-esteem, which had been dented by the faster runners, is restored by the slower ones. The third strategy is to distance yourself from the outperformer. If closeness magnifies the threat, reducing closeness can reduce the pain. This often manifests as physical or emotional avoidance, spending less time with the person, changing jobs, or even ending friendships. Arun and his older brother Vikram both joined their father's textile business. Arun had always assumed he would take over, but Vikram proves to be far more skilled, better with clients, sharper with finances, and clearly the heir apparent. Arun feels his identity as the capable son crumbling. He begins to spend less time at the office, invents excuses to skip family dinners, and eventually takes a job at a different company. He tells his wife, "I just needed to get out of his shadow." By physically distancing himself from his brother, Arun reduces the frequency of painful comparisons and begins to rebuild his self-esteem in a domain where Vikram is not the benchmark. The fourth strategy is perhaps the most psychologically radical: devalue the domain itself. If you cannot beat them and you cannot avoid them, you can decide that the game they are winning is not worth playing. This is a profound reframing, often accompanied by a shift in identity. Daniel spent his 20s chasing a record deal, playing in bands, and dreaming of fame. When his latest band broke up and a former bandmate found solo success, Daniel was devastated. To cope, he began to reframe music as a shallow, immature pursuit. He told friends, "Honestly, the music industry is just vapid and image-obsessed. I want to do something meaningful with my life, not chase empty applause." He enrolled in a social work degree and began to define himself around helping others, a domain where his former rival's success was irrelevant. By devaluing the domain of music, Daniel neutralized the threat and rebuilt his identity on new, safer ground. What once defined him now seemed trivial. The threat dissolved with the domain. Part 3: The Other Side of the Coin: Social Reflection. But we do not always feel threatened by the success of those close to us. Sometimes we feel genuinely proud, basking in their reflected glory without a trace of envy. The SEM model accounts for this through the distinction between social comparison and social reflection. When the success of a close other does not implicate our own self-evaluation, we can derive self-esteem from their achievements without feeling diminished. This is most likely under two conditions. The first is domain irrelevance. If the domain in which the other excels is simply not part of your self-concept, their success becomes a pleasant addition to your social world, not a threat to your identity. Raj is a historian who spends most of his time in libraries and archives. His younger brother Vikram has just won a regional bodybuilding championship. Raj has never lifted a weight in his life and has no aspirations in the realm of physical fitness. The domain is simply not on his self-concept map. When Vikram shows off his trophy, Raj feels a surge of genuine pride. He tells his colleagues at the university, "My brother is a champion bodybuilder." The success makes him feel good about his family, but it doesn't prompt a single moment of self-doubt because being muscular is not a standard Raj uses to evaluate himself. The closeness and the achievement are present, but the relevance is absent. And it is relevance that transforms celebration into threat. The second condition is confidence in one's own ability within that domain. If you are secure in your own competence, a close other's success can reinforce your identity as part of an accomplished group rather than expose you as inadequate. Dr. Naomi is an accomplished cardiac surgeon with a stellar reputation. Her close colleague and friend, Dr. Patel, receives a prestigious national award for surgical excellence. Because Naomi is deeply confident in her own surgical abilities, she knows she is among the best. She feels nothing but pride and pleasure. She tells her family, "My colleague won the award. We trained together." It says something about the quality of surgeons we are. The success reflects well on her group and, by extension, on her. Had she been insecure about her own skills, the same award might have triggered envy. But because she is secure, the achievement reinforces her identity as part of an elite professional circle. Social reflection, not social comparison, prevails. Part 4. The attainability factor. We have seen that the impact of a high achiever depends on closeness and relevance. But there is one more critical variable: attainability. Research by Lockwood and Kunda in the late 1990s demonstrated that the effect of superstars, those at the very top of a domain, depends on whether their success feels within reach. If people believe they can also improve and achieve similar success, superstars are inspiring. If they believe their own abilities are fixed or that such success is unattainable, the same superstar becomes an intimidating and self-deflating comparator. Consider two friends reading the same memoir. Amina is a 27-year-old who has just launched her first startup, a sustainable packaging company. She reads the autobiography of a famous tech billionaire who grew up in a working-class immigrant family, struggled academically, and failed at 2 ventures before succeeding with a third. The story emphasizes grit, adaptability, and learning from failure. Amina finishes the book feeling electrified. She thinks, if he can do it starting from nothing after multiple failures, then there's no reason I can't build something meaningful. I just have to keep going and keep learning. The billionaire's success feels attainable because she sees the messy human journey behind the outcome. She identifies with the struggle and feels her own path is validated. Her friend Daniel, who works a stable corporate job and dreams of entrepreneurship but has never taken the leap, reads the same memoir. But Daniel focuses on different details: the billionaire's photographic memory, his talent for mathematics, and the chance encounter with a venture capitalist that changed everything. He tells himself, "This guy is wired differently. And he got a lucky break I'll never get." Most startups fail, and the ones that succeed are led by outliers. The story, instead of motivating him, reinforces his fear that success is a lottery for the exceptionally gifted or the exceptionally lucky. He puts the book down feeling more resigned and less likely than ever to pursue his own venture. The same memoir inspired one reader and discouraged another. Amina perceived the success as attainable because she focused on the learnable and relatable aspects: effort, resilience, learning from failure. Daniel perceived it as unattainable because he fixated on traits he saw as fixed and luck he saw as capricious. The attainability, not the success itself, determined the response. Part 5. Implications for professional life. The self-evaluation maintenance model has profound implications for the workplace, for leadership, and for how we manage our careers. Many organizations are built on the assumption that putting talented people together will produce synergy. But the SEM model warns that when you place close colleagues in competition within the same domain, you risk triggering threat responses that can undermine collaboration, fuel resentment, and lead to precisely the distancing and devaluation strategies that fragment teams. Leaders who understand this model can design roles and recognition systems that reduce zero-sum comparisons. They can create multiple domains of excellence so that different team members can be celebrated for different strengths, reducing the overlap of relevance. They can encourage a growth mindset, emphasizing that abilities are developable and that the success of a peer contains lessons, not just verdicts. For individuals, the model offers a mirror. When you feel that sharp pang of envy toward a colleague or friend, pause and interrogate it. Which strategy are you deploying? Are you exaggerating their talent to let yourself off the hook? Are you distancing yourself from someone who could be a source of learning and support? Are you quietly devaluing a domain you once loved, simply because someone else is now better at it? These strategies protect self-esteem in the short term, but they can lead to narrowed identities and missed opportunities for growth. The alternative is to cultivate the conditions for social reflection, to build genuine confidence in your own abilities, and to diversify your sources of self-worth so that no single domain holds your entire identity hostage. When you can stand next to an accomplished peer and feel not diminished but enlarged, when their success becomes in some small way your own, you are no longer at the mercy of comparison. You have moved from threat to inspiration, from rivalry to solidarity. Thank you.